We're going to look at solving equations today. First of all, let's look at the difference between an expression and an equation. We have 5x plus 3 versus 5x plus 3 equals 11. The one that is just a statement is called an expression. And when we have an expression, we're only able to simplify the expression. One of the big differences is that in an equation, we have an equal sign. So an equation is something that you can solve. So the purpose of x is to represent an unknown number. In order for us to find the x, we need to slowly peel each layer apart and isolate for the variable. So let's look at the different types of operations we have. If I have addition, the opposite of addition is subtraction. If I have a multiplication, the opposite is division. If I have the exponent 2, the opposite of exponent 2 is taking the square root. Now, before we do examples about that, let's identify the operation that's being applied to the variable. So in this case, we have 9v. 9v means we have a 9 being multiplied to the v. Just like in all of our coefficients, the coefficient always means we're multiplying the variable. So the operation that we have is multiply 9, and the opposite operation would be to divide by 9. Let's look at our second example. The second one, we have x plus 5. What's the operation being applied to the x? It's addition. We are adding 5. So the opposite of adding 5 would be to subtract by 5. The next example, x minus 8. We have a subtraction, and we're subtracting by 8. The opposite of subtracting by 8 would be adding 8. And finally, we have x over 5. Now, there's two possible answers to this. We could say that this is dividing by 5, or we could say that we are multiplying by 1/5. Regardless, both of them will work as long as we identify what the opposite is. So the opposite of dividing by 5 is to multiply by 5, and the opposite of 1 over 5 would be to divide by 1 over 5. Let's apply that knowledge to some of these examples here. X plus 4 is equal to 13. I know that the operation that I have right now applied to the x is adding by 4. The opposite operation is to subtract 4. So what we're going to do now, let's rewrite the entire equation, but we're also going to add a subtract 4 to both sides. So we have x plus 4. Now I'm going to add subtract 4 to the left side. Right side I have 13, and I'm also going to subtract 4. Let's simplify our left and the right side now. So x plus 4 minus 4. These two are like terms. 4 minus 4 gives us simply x. On the right side, we have 13 minus 4. That gives us 9. Let's do another example. We've identified the operation as minus 8. The opposite of subtract 8 would be adding 8. So once again, we're going to rewrite the equation, and then we are going to add 8 to both sides. I'm going to have plus 8 and a plus 8. When we simplify the left side, I only have x remaining, and on the right side, 2 plus 8 gives us 10. Let's do this for number 3, 5x divided by 20. The operation that we have, x has 5 multiplied to it. The opposite of times 5 is to divide by 5. Let's rewrite the equation, but now we're going to divide both the left side and the right side by 5. When you write divide, I want you to write it as a fraction because this is probably the most organized way to see it. So 5 over 5, we know that any number divided by itself is 1. So I have 1x is equal to 4. But we know that 1x is equivalent to just x because saying 1x is a bit redundant. Right? Let's look at our last example. X divided by 4 is equal to 3. The operation that we have, we're dividing by 4, and the opposite operation is to multiply by 4. Let's rewrite the equation, and I'm going to multiply 4 on both sides. On the left side, I have 4x over 4. That becomes 4x over 4. It becomes 1x. And on the right side, we have 12. All right, let's do a couple of trickier operations. First one, negative x. Is this addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division? I want you to think back. Negative x is a variable with a coefficient of -1. So really, negative x is equal to -1x. And we know that a coefficient means that I have -1 times the variable. That would mean our first one is a multiplication. So the opposite operation of this would be to divide by -1. All right, our second example. -5 plus x. What is being applied to the x? So I need you to be really mindful. It's not that x is being added to the -5 because that's what's being applied to the -5. But I want to know what is being applied to the x. Now, if we rewrote this equation, I would have x minus 5 because -5 plus x is equivalent to x minus 5. So what really went on here? The operation, we have x is being subtracted by 5. And so the opposite would be adding by 5. Eight minus x. Okay, this one is another tricky one. What's going on here? 8 minus x. If we rewrote it, I have negative x plus 8. There's two things going on. One of the items that's going on, we have the operation of plus 8. The opposite of that would be to subtract by 8. Another thing that's going on is the negative x. We know from the first example that the negative x means I have -1 times the variable. So the opposite of this would be to divide by -1. This one actually has two operations going on. Last one, 1 over 5x. 1 over 5 is the coefficient. So we could say that we have the operation of multiplying by 1 over 5. The opposite of that would be to divide by 1 over 5. Another way you could see it, you could say that the operation is dividing by 5, and the opposite of that would be to times by 5. Let's do a couple of these examples. Negative y is equal to 13. This answer is not complete because I don't want to know what the negative version of the variable is. I need to know what the positive version of the variable is. That would mean that I need to divide both sides by -1. So we have negative y divided by -1 is equal to 13 over -1. When we simplify it, y is equal to -13. Let's do another one. -4 plus x. What's going on? The operation we have here is subtract 4. The opposite of subtracting 4 is to add 4. Okay, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. And I collect the like terms on the left side. -4 plus 4. I just have x left. On the right side, we have 6. Okay, this one has got a fraction. What is the operation? We're multiplying by the fraction 3 over 4. The opposite of multiplying by 3 over 4 is to divide by 3 over 4. So let's rewrite this equation and we're going to divide by 3 over 4. 3x over 4. divided by 3 over 4 equals 15 divided by 3 over 4. Let's flip the fraction and the symbol. So 3x over 4 times 4 over 3 is equal to 15 over 1 times 4 over 3. Numerators here become a 12. Denominators become a 12, so I only have 1x left. On the right-hand side, I have 15 times 4, that gives us 60, and the denominator is 3. So x is equal to 20. Pause the video and try these questions on your own. One hint here for number 9. If I have x minus 16, you will need to simplify the minus